In the high-speed world of Formula 2 racing, Anthoine Hubert was a rising star, a force to be reckoned with. With multiple podium finishes and GP3 Series championships under his belt, he lived life in the fast lane. But in a heartbreaking turn of events, his final race would become a nightmare that no one would ever forget. Amidst the roar of engines and the hope of another strong finish, the track suddenly turned into a scene of chaos and tragedy. Join us as we cover the story of Anthoine Hubert and the terrifying last moments that changed everything. Anthoine Hubert was born on September 22, 1996 in Lyon, France, into a family where motorsport was part of everyday life. His father, François Hubert, was an amateur rally driver in the 1990s, so for Anthoine, weekends were most commonly spent talking about racing-related topics. Growing up surrounded by cars and motorsport culture, we could see where little Anthoine developed his interest in racing. At the age of 3, he had already taken his first turns in a baby kart, which he innocently thought was from Père Noël, or Santa Claus. But he treated it like a serious piece of machinery instead of a toy. And by the time he turned 8, he was racing competitively in karting with a rather calm mindset, yet always thinking one corner ahead. That quiet approach became a pattern that stayed with him throughout his entire career. Anthoine's karting years were not straight or easy climbs. They were rather a series of small steps, each built upon the last. He rose through the French karting ranks, then moved to international events, mixing among the very best young drivers in Europe. In 2011 and 2012, after years and years of relentless practice behind the wheel, he finished third in the CIK FIA Under-18 World Karting Championship. And by 2013, Anthoine was ready for the next significant step in his career. He stepped into single-seater racing, leaving behind the open-wheeled karts and moving up to the French Formula 4 Championship, which demanded a deeper understanding of technical things and race strategies. However, Hubert adapted almost immediately and dominated the races, winning 11 of the 22 races and finishing on the podium in several others on his way to the title. The following year in 2014, Anthoine moved to the Eurocup Formula Renault 2.0 with Tech 1 Racing, which is one of the most competitive junior series in Europe. And though he finished 15th in his first full season, scoring points in 6 races, the people around him could see the way his skills were evolving. By 2015 and 2016, that development started turning into real momentum. He impressed in higher-profile European championships, showing a racecraft that blended aggression when necessary with restraint when the situation demanded it. Those seasons earned him the attention of development programs and opened doors to the GP3 series, where the jump in competition would be another test of character and skill. This was a significant step as there were doubts about whether Anthoine could handle the extra power and speed of Formula 3 against the very best juniors. However, the gamble paid off when Anthoine went on to score his first Formula 3 win at Nürburgring, a tight street circuit that suited his driving style. And in 2018, he turned heads by achieving his first championship title. He managed to achieve 2 wins and 11 podiums, grinding down the field with a mixture of consistency and the ability to keep scoring points even on days when he wasn't the outright fastest. In 2019, Anthoine had a promising start to the Formula 2 season, securing strong finishes in earlier rounds like Monaco and Paul Ricard, where he notched sprint race victories that made him 8th in the standings. He was aiming to rack up even more points in the iconic Formula 2 feature race at Belgium's Spa-Francorchamps circuit, which was known for its high-speed challenges and storied history. Unfortunately, fate had other plans. August 31st, 2019, race day at Belgium kicked off as usual with the Formula 1 Belgium Grand Prix qualifying taking place earlier that day, and the crowd eagerly waiting for the FIA Formula 2 feature race later that afternoon. 22-year-old Anthoine Hubert, who was at that point one of the rising names in the junior single-seater ladder, lined up for the feature race and seemed calm and confident. Then at around 4:45 p.m. local time, the race at Spa-Francorchamps started, with the opening lap unfolding in a kind of controlled chaos that Formula 2 often produces on a circuit as unforgiving as this one. The field came through the first corners in tightly packed formations, with each driver trying to balance aggression with survival, knowing that Spa rewards commitment, but punishes even the smallest error. Hubert was staying composed and looking for the right moment to make progress. Nothing about these first laps suggested the day was about to turn into something unforgettable for all the wrong reasons. As the race progressed to lap 2, disaster struck when the cars reached the crest of the uphill sweep after Eau Rouge, which was known for its blind elevation and high-speed exit onto the Camel Straight. Giuliano Alessi, driving for Trident, suddenly encountered pressure loss in his right rear tire, perhaps from a puncture, and lost control of his car at over 155 miles an hour. He collided with the left side retaining barrier, shredding his rear wing and scattering carbon fiber shards across the track. And while Alessi escaped unharmed, this started a devastating chain reaction, unavoidable at that. Ralph Boschung, who was running the midfield, spotted the wreckage and slowed abruptly, veering to the right, into the paved runoff area at Lyon to avoid collision, where marshals started waving yellow flags approximately 1.8 seconds after Alessi lost control. These flags indicated that drivers must reduce speed significantly, be prepared if necessary to avoid overtaking any vehicle ahead, but sadly the situation was already unfolding too quickly, and within seconds it would turn into something far worse. After Boschung's unexpected slowing down, Anthoine, who had been positioned just behind him in P9, P10, after a clean start from the grind P9, had limited visibility because of the chaos ahead. To avoid hitting the back of Boschung's sharply decelerating car, Hubert braked hard and veered off right at 140 miles an hour. It was evident that the accident was highly likely from this point, but there was still a chance to avoid it or reduce the severity. As his pink BWT Arden car approached the debris patch, his front wing clipped Boschung's rear wheel, making steering control nearly impossible. Hubert overcorrected slightly as the car snapped sideways, veering off into the right-hand Tech Pro barriers at a 40-degree angle. The initial impact occurred at 134 miles an hour, generating a force of 33.7 Gs. To put that into perspective, this force is at least 10 times greater than what you experience in an intense roller coaster ride. The barrier absorbed part of the impact, but the rebound sent Hubert's car spinning back toward the track, coming to a rest perpendicular to the racing line, with its left-hand side exposed to the uphill traffic. At the same time, Juan Manuel was approaching the crest of the midfield, where he struck Alessi's debris approximately 1.5 seconds after the yellow flags, damaging his front wing and making his Sauber Junior team car uncontrollable. Correa's car then veered into the same runoff area where Hubert's car was sitting exposed. In that moment, the halo device performed as designed, deflecting potential debris, but the F2 chassis' side intrusion panels faced unprecedented lateral energy. It's possible that the blind crest, compressed midfield pack, and debris chaos distracted Correa from fully registering Hubert's position until too late. Tragically, Correa's car collided with the left cockpit side of Hubert's immobilized chassis at an 86-degree T-bone angle with minimal speed reduction. Hubert's car was subjected to a peak force of 82 Gs, while Correa experienced forces of around 65 Gs himself. The impact at 135 miles an hour was so forceful that it sheared both chassis apart, snapping Hubert's car in two and accelerating back into the barrier a second time at 65 miles an hour. As the dust slowly settled over the track, everyone was waiting for Anthoine to get up and walk out of the wreckage. But as time passed, he didn't get out of his car, and it was clear that something had gone seriously wrong. The marshals and medical teams responded immediately, and the race was red flagged. Correa, despite the massive impact, survived and was transported to urgent treatment as soon as possible for possible head and spine injuries. But Hubert's injuries were much more severe. He was transported to the Circuit's medical center, but despite the speed of the response and the efforts of the medical staff, he had suffered what categorized as non-survivable trauma. And just like that, at 6:35 p.m. local time, approximately 90 minutes after the crash, Anthoine was pronounced dead at the age of 22. The race that day was ultimately cancelled, and the following day's sprint race was also called off out of respect for Anthoine. The official cause of death was declared to be the unsurvivable trauma to the head and neck. In simpler terms, the multiple impacts, particularly the enormous lateral forces involved in the collision, caused massive deceleration injuries to his head and neck, despite head and neck safety, or HANDS, restraints. Following the incident, the FIA launched an exhaustive investigation, with its findings making public in February of 2020. The report concluded that no single driver was to blame, and that the tragedy was the result of a complex, high-speed sequence of events where the kinetic energy simply exceeded the limits of modern safety technology. The whole sequence lasted only seconds, but it contained enough force and complexity to overwhelm the track, the cars, and the driver's ability to respond. The result also renewed debate about Raidillon itself, a corner that had long been admired and feared in equal measure. Drivers had warned for years and years that the combination of speed, blind crest, and lack of reaction time left almost no margin if something went wrong. Reflecting on the scale of the impact, Racing Point F1 team technical director Andy Green commented, quote, "The energy involved was absolutely huge. And the current chassis design, whether F2 or F1, there's no way a current chassis can survive that sort of impact." The days after Anthoine's death were filled with a silence that motorsport was not used to. Before the Formula 3 and Formula 1 races on September 1st, the circuit fell still for a minute of silence. And then the tribute started to spread across the paddock. Safety cars, recovery vehicles, and other official transport vehicles took a lap in the circuit in his honor, while Formula 1 cars carried his number inside a star with the words, "Racing for Anthoine." On September 10th, his funeral took place at Chartres Cathedral, Arré-et-Loire. It was attended by friends as well as many people from motorsport, such as FIA President Jean Todt, Renault F1 driver and four-time champion Alain Prost, Pierre Gasly, and George Russell. A large portrait of Hubert was displayed outside the cathedral, and his helmets were placed inside as a tribute to him. It wasn't treated like a public spectacle, but like a final farewell to a young driver who had earned the respect and affection of the entire paddock. Looking back at his incredible journey, it's safe to say that he remains as a symbol of both talent and loss. In the following months, Formula 2 created the Anthoine Hubert Award to honor the best rookie each season, which is a fitting tribute because it reflects the path he was on when his life ended. Plus, his number 19 was retired from Formula 2, the AH19 stickers appeared on cars, and the Run for Anthoine became a tradition that keeps bringing people back to the place where everything changed. Every year, the walk or jog to Lyon feels like a shared act of memory, especially when Pierre Gasly leads the way with a tribute helmet or a quiet moment of reflection. Hubert's light was not faded at Spa. It lives there, in every silence, every gesture, and every person who remembers that a beautiful young driver once raced with a heart and left behind a legacy that still reaches the sky. So if you enjoyed this story about Anthoine Hubert and want to see more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. That is all for today, and we'll see you in the next video with another story.